So let's talk a little bit about indexing. We discussed indexing last week, and some of you took the assignment to report on your indexing experience. So let's see, I have written down that Sister Coca and Taylor English are going to share. And did I hear that, Amber, you had an experience with indexing?
Kind of. I just got distracted indexing while I was waiting for the class to start, and then I was late joining the class.
So that's what you were doing. That's awesome. Okay, Taylor, did you have a chance to index this week?
So a little bit. I forgot to put it into my reminders, but I was working on it a little bit earlier today, and I tried a Spanish batch, and I had no idea what was going on because it was just written in big paragraphs. But your advice about looking at project instructions was really useful because it described exactly what that meant. The only problem was it was Spanish cursive, and so I was only able to get bits and pieces, but I'll keep working on it.
Okay, that's great. Sister Coca, how was your experience?
I also did it in Spanish, and it was actually really good. My mom, she's like, okay, I'll join in with you. So, and it's actually really nice because like Taylor said, like they were in Spanish cursive. So we were just like, okay, what is that, a Z or a T or like an S or what is it? It was really nice to work like side by side by my mom, and we got like, I think half a batch done. We're still working on finishing it, but it was just like a really cool experience to be able to do it. And like, I think once you get the hang of it, like, cause like one person writes it, like the worker writes it. And once you get the hang of it, where everything goes in there, like it'll go by faster. Cause definitely like the first image was like the hardest, but then once we got like the hang of it, it got a little bit easier. So that was really cool.
Great. That's great. Anybody else have an indexing experience you want to share with us?
Well, I decided yesterday to at least put an hour into it, like starting it for the first time. And I kind of took it on the first time, like, I'm going to start with the English and then go to the Spanish.
Good.
But I just remember when I was doing it, I just felt like, who knows, by putting the information for these people into Family Search would be the thing that helps them receive their saving ordinances much later on. And I don't know, just kind of feeling that, just gave it a little bit more purpose and a lot more motivation to do it.
Awesome. First of all, those of you that can do the practice today on a PC instead of on your phones, you're going to have a better experience. We're going to be talking about sources. Sources, the way they look, the way that they're attached is very different between the web-based, which you'd see on a PC or a Mac, versus what you'd see on the mobile app, on your phone, or on a tablet. And so that it wouldn't get super confusing, the screenshots that I've got that I'm going to show you today are from a PC. I started trying to do it on both, and it was just insane. So if you have access to a PC, that's going to be easier for you. If not, everything will translate, and I'm going to try and give you a heads up when we run into something that looks a lot different. So first of all, the Family Search family tree is a shared tree, or what we call a collaborative tree. So that means that at some point, who can I pick on? So at some point, Sister Fillerup, she's going to follow her line back, and I'm going to follow my line back, and we're going to find a common ancestor somewhere in Sweden or Germany or something like that. The same thing is going to happen with Cameron Steer and Sister Smith. They're going to follow their tree back far enough, and they're going to find a common ancestor. It's a shared tree. We're all kind of working on the same tree. So because of that, it's both a blessing and a curse. The blessing is that when Sister Fillerup puts in that picture on our shared grandfather, I will be able to see it because we're actually looking at the same record. The curse is that it's not really my tree. It's our tree. So I have to be a good steward when I'm working on the tree. It means I want to put in good reason statements when I make a change. I want to put in sources when I've got them. I obviously want to put in documents and photos, because it's kind of like we're playing in the sandbox all together versus playing in the sandbox by ourselves. And so when we play together, sources is one thing that really helps us to play nicely with each other. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about sources today. First of all, in the chat box, what I want you to do is I want you to type in the name of a family history source. Let's see how many different sources we can come up with here. Some marriage certificate, census record, death certificate, great. Oh, probate records. Nice job, Brady. That certainly didn't come to my mind first. Good job. What else? Obituary. Wonderful. Immigration records. Yep, those are awesome. Okay, these are all family history sources. Some are easier to attach to Family Search than others, but they're all acceptable. So most of these sources come to us thanks to the efforts of indexers. So I'm super happy that you guys have joined the army of indexers, because the records that you index are flowing into Family Search and will show up as sources. We'll look at some of those in a minute. So as missionaries, we frequently state, listen, don't take my word for it. I want you to pray about it and you can gain your own testimony. We invite investigators to seek for a second witness of just about everything that we teach. Family history is the same way. And sources are your second witness. So you put something in, and rather than someone taking your word for it, you are giving them a backup immediately that they can look at, a second witness. So I want you to think of sources as your second witness. Sources kind of provide the power or the engine on our family tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my slide. I have here a screen from one of my ancestors. What I'd like you to do is go find your annotate tool. If you go up at the top of your screen where it says sharing and you click or hover, your annotate tool will come up. And I'd like you to either draw a box around or highlight or put an arrow. I don't care how you do it. I want you to mark everywhere on this screen where you think we would see something about a source. So some of these are very obvious places that we would see sources. Some were a little hidden and you got them all. You got everything that I had thought of. So when I say that sources underlie everything that we do in Family Search, you can see that it really does. So this is a quick screenshot. If you're in the fan chart, we've been using the fan chart a lot in the past. If you want to see who on your tree has sources, use your fan chart view, use your sources filter. Notice your option or your legend on the right kind of gives you an idea of how many people already have sources. So nice thing about this is that you can very quickly go and find someone that has a source already attached. All right, so if I click on one of the people in my fan chart, in this case, I clicked on Olea Anders' daughter, this little pop-up that comes up, we call the summary card. If I click right, first of all, two things. Right now, I know immediately that she has 15 sources. If I click on that 15 sources, it'll take me directly to her sources page. So what I'd like you to do is raise your hand. How many of you have access to a PC today? So I know if you can participate in this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that'll work. I want you to do this. I want you to go to your fan chart, go to your sources, start clicking around. I want you to put in the chat box the highest number of sources that you see on your tree. So I have 15. I'm gonna go look and see if I can find more than that. And I'm going to invite you to share your number of sources with us. Taylor English, are you kidding me?
Heber C. Kimball.
Okay, so first of all, that's super cool. You're related to Heber C. Kimball. 173 sources. That's going to be hard to beat. Brother Steer, who had 166 sources attached?
Christopher Layton.
When was he born?
He was born, just a sec, in 1821.
Wow, that's a lot of sources. Okay, awesome. So you know how to use the fan chart. You can use it to see the number of sources. You can use it to click right through to your sources. So let me get my next one. This little activity, like what we just did, is something that you could do as a missionary for a family home evening. And for years and years, I was a temple and family history consultant, and I would go out and travel from family to family and do a family home evening. I took this type of experience, expanded a little bit, and did a scavenger hunt. And it's like, find the oldest, the person who's lived the longest on your family tree, find the weirdest name. And so I've put in the syllabus, I've put a link to a couple of different scavenger hunts that you could do with your families, because you can do it while you're on quarantine. You can work on it at home together. So I'll post that to our Facebook group right after class so that you can go and you can play that scavenger hunt with your family. Now, can you see it?
That's it.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, so I see his signature. I see that he was 43. So I'm imagining a 43-year-old man going in to register for the draft. So I maybe go back and look and figure out how many kids he would have left behind if he was thinking about having to go off and fight. This would be World War I. The other thing I love to look at is the description up here in the corner. So I blew it up a little bit. It tells me that he is medium height, medium build, blue eyes, brown hair. So now, even without a picture, I can visualize him a little bit more. So there are a lot of sources that will give us a little bit more information. Your next assignment is, we're gonna have you do a breakout. Brother Miller, I'd like groups of 3, I think, and let's give them each 5 minutes. I want you to go hunting, find one source that tells you something new about an ancestor, something you didn't know, something that you find in common with yourself, something you could share with somebody else, any of those things, just something that makes them come off the page, seem a little more real, and it has to come from a source. So share that with your group, and then I'd like one person from each group to be willing to share with us when you come back. Here they all come. This is great. I feel like the mama kitty that just rang the dinner bell, and here they all come. So welcome back. Rather than share our stories here, I'm going to invite you to share the source and the story that it tells with your family tonight over dinner. So make a little note to yourself, write it down on your paper, that tonight at dinner time, you're gonna share the cool insight that you just discovered and show them how you got there. And watch their eyes light up, and they'll say, well, can you show me that again? And you'll be able to help them with a little bit of family history. So that's your first assignment. So now, going back to all those records that you're indexing and everybody else is helping to index. So Family Search pushes those records out to Family Search just as soon as they are indexed. And once that happens, all these lovely little bots get busy in the background, comparing the information on those indexed records with the family tree, looking for possible matches. And they present those possible matches to you in the form of a hint. And by show of hands, how many of you have used a record hint to attach a record on Family Search? Show me with your hands. Keep them up for just a minute. I have to see everybody. All right, I'm going to walk you through it very briefly, and hopefully everybody will learn something new that you didn't know before. So, first of all, you should probably all know on the landscape view of your pedigree chart is the best place to find hints. They look like all these little kind of aqua blue boxes. That means there's a hint for this person. So every once in a while, I go into my family tree and I click on the generations and I go back a little bit and I look at the hints and I attach the records and link the sources. So this view, hints don't show up on your fan chart view, but they do show up on this landscape view. So these are the hints that come from indexed records. Go ahead and open up the person's page. It'll look something like this, and go over to the right-hand side and click on the hint here. You'll be more effective in attaching hints if you'll do it from here rather than doing it from the pedigree view. Okay, if you've got a question anywhere along the way, raise your hand, either your real hand or your virtual hand. Alec.
Why is it more effective to click on their name and do it from there?
Ooh, good question. The reason is because this screen that then pops up right here, you can kind of see behind it. Do you see my mouse moving around? Do you see my mouse? Okay. If you do it from this screen, you can see the information that's behind it, and it allows you to make that quick decision about, is this his record, easier than if you do it from the pedigree view. Make sense? Thank you for asking.
Thanks.
Great. Okay. So you click on the hint, up comes this little summary view of the hint. There's only one question that you're trying to answer from this little pop-up view, and that is this probably his record? There can be differences in spelling, but you're just kind of looking at it to say, is it probably? If it probably is, you're going to click on review and attach. If it probably isn't, you're going to click on not a match. I want to point out a couple of things. Pay attention to two pieces of information. First of all, at the top, it says this is William B. Wilson, mentioned in the record of Laura Marshall. That means this isn't his record. This is Laura Marshall's record, who happens to be his daughter. And the second piece of information is, what kind of a record is it? So let's see, who's staring at the screen intently? Cameron Elwood. What kind of a record is this? Oh, you're still muted, my friend.
It was a death and burial record.
Yeah. Okay. So from this little screen, we know two really important things. It's a death record or a burial record for his daughter that happens to mention him. That's important because when you look at the next screen, already knowing that, it's going to make attaching the source better, more effective. Okay, so you're always going to pause here and you're going to look at those two pieces of data, and then you're going to say, okay, this looks like his record. William B. Wilson, he's a male, born in Missouri. It matches. So I think I'm going to review and attach. You're not committing yourself yet. This is like the point with the investigator when they say, when I gain a testimony, I will be baptized, but they're not actually baptized yet. So this is the same thing. You've stepped a little further, but you're not committed. This will bring up the linker screen. On the left-hand side of your screen, everything on the left comes from that death or burial record. Everything on the right comes from family tree. Your job is to compare them and decide if this is really now a record that you want to commit to link to William B. Wilson. You do that, I'm going to show you, click on the little compare button. Here's why you want to know whose record it is. When you start attaching the records, start with the person who owns the record. Remember the screen before? We discovered it's a death or burial record for Laura Marshall. We want to start there. Then the rest of the attachments will make more sense. So I'm going to click on the compare button. When I do, it blows that up, expands Laura's record. My job now is to compare each of the pieces of information. So it has a different name. Might be her married name. What do I do with this? Somebody be brave. Who's attached records? Brady, what do I do with this?
I'd write it down and make a note of it.
That's an excellent idea. I don't want to just gloss over it, right? I mean, they're different. Okay, so when I'm attaching records, I have a piece of scratch paper or a notepad or something by me, I'd write it down. I'm going to do the same thing. Gender, sex, no problem there. Oh dear, what do you see as a problem with the birth date? Who can pick it out?
Different year.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to write down, there's a conflict with the birth year. So now I've got a name and a year that are a problem. And I keep going down, comparing each of these pieces of information. It's a real temptation when we're attaching record hints to become click happy, means click, 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 attach. And then we miss these little bits and pieces that would make the record more accurate if we act on them. So when I get to the bottom, I am going to add this residence, and then I have a reason to attach the source. So I'd like you to raise your hand if you think I should attach this source to Laura Josephine Wilson. Yes or no? Taylor's on the fence, not sure. Cameron, commit yourself one way or the other. Cameron Steer, should I attach the record? Cameron Elwood says I should not. Okay. Sister Fillerup, that's a yes. All right. Taylor, why do you think I shouldn't attach the record?
Well, I'm just not sure based on mostly the name, just until you know for sure.
What if I told you that I went and I checked and she married a man whose last name is Marshall and that her maiden name is Wilson? Would that help?
Yeah, it's probably good.
You feel good about that? Okay. Cameron Elwood, you would not attach the record. Tell me what your concerns would be.
Well, I can see where there can be some lenience in names, seeing how things can change with names. I would still say that any conflict with birth years or any conflict with birth dates or marriage dates or death dates should be seriously considered, whether it be perhaps an error on the document or perhaps a different person.
I love that. I love that because it could be either one, couldn't it? It could be an error on the document or it could be a different person. So I want to be sure before I attach it. So I went in and I looked at Laura and I found out that her headstone actually says 1873. So the error here is on family tree. And by adding this record, I can attach it and I can fix her birth date so that it's the correct year. So I want to show you my reason statement because we always enter a reason statement when we do anything on family search. It's like the breadcrumb trail, but it doesn't help us get back somewhere. It helps other people follow us. So I would say the relationships on the record support linking. Her married name is listed and the conflict in the birth year is 1873 versus 1874. The headstone show, wow. I put the wrong year in there. The headstone shows 1873. So I'll update her info. So I click on attach. So now I have a new birth year that's now more correct. And I have attached this record to her. I would go through the steps and attach the record for her mom and her dad. But now that I've finished attaching her parents will be much easier. So this week, your second assignment is to examine at least 3 record hints, attach them to Family Search if they match. And I'm going to ask Sister Grohl, would you take the assignment to report to us on Monday? Okay, anybody else really want to volunteer before I choose you? Brother Elwood, you're going to go for this? Okay, and Brother Alstrom.
Is happy to. He's raising and waving that hand.
Awesome. Okay, Brother Alstrom, that's great. So we'll have the 3 of you report on how your experience was. I'd love to hear something new that you learn as a process of this, so you can share it with us so that we can benefit from that. All right.
I have a question, if it's okay.
Of course.
So when you're looking at those conflicts and trying to resolve them and you're using other sources, should you look and see if there's ones to support both sides? So like with that birth year, should you look and see if there's one that says 1874? And if so, how do you have like multiple that say 1873 and 1874?
That's an awesome question. That's exactly what you would do. And then that gets you into kind of trying to decide which source is going to be more accurate, which source carries more weight, but you absolutely would do that. Thank you, Amber. Other questions? Okay, so I have just a minute that I get to share. When I get a chance to do family history, and I spend some time swimming around in sources, I invariably find wonderful things. New information about somebody that I didn't know, a new child that was not part of the family that I found because I took time to sit down and look at that census record a little more closely. Relationships that I didn't know about, and I find my heart turning to them. I find the Spirit bearing witness, helping me sort it out. It's one of my favorite things to do, to go swimming around in these sources for ancestors. So you're in for sounds like you've been doing it before, but I'm anxious to hear about your experience this week.